Hello world of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Viral's Movie Reviews, where I review movies that you guys suggest. I go into the movies and see or I feel like discussing, and today I'm going to be talking about the latest film from writer-director Jordan Peele, Us, starring Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Shahadi Wright-Joseph, Evan Alex, and a small slew of other people. One of the biggest things I see people talk about when it comes to this film, at least the people in my immediate vicinity, is that they were let down by this film because it isn't like Get Out. And personally, I'm okay with that. After seeing this movie, it was further solidified why the people that were remaking The Twilight Zone decided to pick Jordan Peele to curate that particular series. He has a knack for writing really interesting scenarios in the realm of horror and suspense and thriller. You know, this movie feels like such a different beast than Get Out, but it still feels like it has a message it wants to say. It feels like it has a clear idea behind it, and that's one of the things I really, really like about it. I also like that he's writing horror movies that don't focus on the tropes that have been done to death in the genre over the last decade or so. I really respect what Jordan Peele did with this movie. He's a lot more ambitious. The scope within this film feels a little bigger. You know, he's upping the stakes a little bit thematically, or like scale-wise, but he's keeping it a tight, intimate venture. You know, I really like the relationship he builds with this family, and I think that the chemistry across the cast is impeccable. You know, even the side characters like Tim Heidecker and Elizabeth Moss characters, they play off of the titular family really, really well. I like that this film is more abstract with its ideas. I like that he's doing the weird twists and turns in a way that even for someone who walks into it expecting that, they're still going to be blown away by just where he takes this film. At least I was. I didn't expect this movie to go where it did, but I was wholly impressed with the fact that I was floored by the end of its runtime. You know, the cinematography in this movie is really nice. There's a lot of stylistic camera work done in here, whether it's to foreshadow something that is discussed further down the line, or it's just trying to make things look really sinister and scary. The cinematography is aces all around. The soundtrack, both orchestrically, like the original film score, and the copywritten music used in the film is done purposefully. Everything in this film just feels purposeful and not in a lazy way. Everything seems to come back around in itself. A lot of the film answers a lot of its own questions by the end of it, which I really, really enjoyed. I've heard people say that this film feels really too abstract, and I disagree completely. I feel like everything in this movie, as far as character actions are considered and motives, it all makes sense by the end of the movie, and I really enjoyed that about it. You know, for a movie that's trying to be bold with how it tells its story, it doesn't get wrapped up in its own hubris, like I feel like a lot of films of this style do. Like Hereditary. I liked Hereditary a lot, but I feel like for a horror film trying to be an art house horror and a commercial success, this is doing it better than that did. The only issue that I really had with this movie, and it's not because of the use of it, some of the comedy. I've dwelled on it a lot. When I initially walked out of the film, I didn't mind all of the comedy used, and a majority of it I don't mind. I like a lot of the comedic moments. I think that it's good that in and of itself it undercuts some of the scary moments, but given the film has no jump scares, it uses a joke and a punchline as a sort of come down from a scare in the same way that a jump scare would. You know, I only feel like in some of the situations, some of the elongated comedy was unnecessary. I liked the fact that comedy was there, but some of the conversations I feel like went on a little too long for the purpose of making an elongated bit. I like the ending, and I like the scope that the ending shows with the world. I just wish that there was a little more to it. something else to discuss the world, you know, because they show things happen. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but they show things happen, and I understand, and the viewer understands what exactly has gone down, but I almost wanted a little more. I wanted a little more ties to the message Jordan Peele was aiming for, as far as the meta-narrative is considered, because if we are to assume he followed the same sort of ideologies that went into the writing of Get Out, it's clear that he sits on a side. It just would have been nice to have seen that side more defined, but I guess that's the reason why it's ambivalent. It's to let the viewer dissect it themselves, but I don't know, to be the one truly holistically abstract, ambiguous part of the film, it's interesting. I do like the message he's trying to tell, and I think that the avenue with which he's choosing to talk about these issues works, and I think it works really, really well, and it's a great thing to see in this genre explored. And I like this thing a lot. Like, I do. I like this thing about as much as Get Out. I think that it's hard to compare the two because they're two very different movies. They're just by the same guy, so people are going to inevitably compare them. That's my comparison. I like it about as much as Get Out. My issues with it are different than the ones in Get Out, for the most part. I will say, while I'm comparing them, I do think that his screenwriting abilities have gotten stronger with Us than they were in Get Out, because some of my issues with Get Out came in some of the smaller logical fallacies that came in the movie throughout its second act, but a lot of those issues have been corrected with Us. And I'm just overall really excited to see what Jordan Peele decides to do next. I know there's some non-horror films he's wanting to do, and I would love to see him do that, but I'm very excited to see what he decides to do next in the horror genre, if he decides to do so. I hope he does more in the genre, because he's doing really interesting things for it, and I'm all about that, man. I love this genre, as you guys may have realized with my list last year, and I love seeing dudes and people in general contributing to the genre in a positive way. I give this film an 8 out of 10. It was a really fun ride. It was a ride I liked being on. I liked the tension. I think it's a really tense flick, and I think that because I like the characters, it made the tension much more real. So go see this movie. Go see it. That's my piece on it. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna go. I have been Viral Rack. You guys have been these lots of situations, and I'll see you another day.